Live on Facebook and Instagram for coffee and questions. So fingers crossed this works because this is the first time I've done this. So I've got my coffee and I'm ready to go. We've got a couple of really good questions. One question comes from Catherine, another one of my clients who needs to book in for a consultation. She wants to know how to cook eggs. What's the best way to cook her eggs? So whether it's poached, scrambled, dry fried, omelette, frittata, anything. So with eggs, it doesn't matter how you cook them. I guess the only thing that matters is what you put with them. So if you're putting them with some oil or some butter, that obviously counts as extra fats and calories. Hello, all those people that are joining. This is so cool. Sorry, so distracted by all these people that are joining. Hello, hey Taylor. So eggs, yeah, it doesn't matter how you cook them. If you're cooking them with extra butter, extra oil, that's extra calories. But if you're cooking them just poached, there's obviously nothing in that. If you're making an omelette, you can add extra veggies. Hi Magnum, good to see you. Good to see you working. So yeah, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. The nutritional content doesn't change. The protein stays the same. So it really doesn't matter. Hey Carly. All right, the next question's a pretty deep question. It's about low carb, high fat diets for sport and exercise. So it's quite a broad general question, and I think that needs a bit of context around it to answer it specifically for somebody. But generally I can talk to it, and this is actually a topic that I've written a blog about. So I'll link it through here afterwards to read a blog I wrote in 2016. So it's probably a little bit old now, but I guess the science hasn't changed too much. I was fortunate enough to be involved in a supernova study down at the AIS through my work, working as part of the AIS fellowship, and we did a low carb, high fat study with race walkers, so that was really cool to be a part of. And I guess the low carb, high fat topic resurges every 20 years. If you go back and have a look at the data in the literature, 20 years ago there was a big surgence of low carb, high fat. And now we're coming back around to it again, and it's kind of the flavour of the season, and I think it'll die off a bit, and then in 20 years it'll come back again. So low carb, high fat basically means that you keep your carbohydrate intake each day less than 50 grams, and like every day it takes 5 days to fat adapt yourself. And then you switch from burning carbohydrate as a fuel to burning fat as a fuel. So yeah, it does take about 5 days to do that, and then you need to consistently do that as well, otherwise you do drop yourself out of fat adaptation. And a lot of people are using it as a weight loss strategy, which is fine. There's a bit of evidence around weight loss and low carb, high fat diets. Number one, the biggest study that in this area found that at 6 months, the low carb, high fat people lost more weight compared to just a regular sort of calorie restricted diet. But at 2 years, they were both the same. So the summary of that paper, which is a pretty cool study, is that if you want to like help kickstart weight loss, or you've got maybe a shorter time frame, then it can help you lose more weight initially over the first 6 months. But then it's quite restrictive. It's hard to stick to, so people tend to just put carbs back into their life. Hey Liv, miss you. And then they go back to eating carbs, and you pull yourself out of it. And at 2 years, it didn't matter what diet they did. So in terms of weight loss, it can be good to kickstart something. But as a long-term strategy, unless you're flipping it for your entire lifestyle, then it doesn't have much difference to a calorie restriction. Okay, so that's in terms of weight loss. Now, if we talk about it in terms of sports nutrition, so to answer that, you need to understand the different types of fuel we use during exercise. At lower intensity exercise, we burn more fat as a fuel source, up to sort of aerobic intensity, which is sort of 60-65% VO2 max. Hello, Liv. We burn about 50-50, so 50 carbs, 50 fat. As the intensity increases, though, we really draw on more carbohydrate as a fuel source. So as we're stepping up to more 85% VO2 max and beyond, the higher the intensity, the more carbohydrate we use, because we lose the ability to breathe at higher intensity. And that means that we lose our ability to oxidize fat as a fuel source. So we draw really more so on our muscle glycogen, our carbohydrates stored in our muscle, as the intensity goes up. So if you understand that, then you kind of understand the answer to where the low carb, high fat diets will work for you, because it depends on your sport. It depends if you are exercising at really high intensity or racing at high intensity, then you're probably better off with carbs. But if you're planning on going quite slow forever, like a big diesel engine, like an Ironman athlete that doesn't want to win or doesn't want to race hard or fast above their aerobic intensity, then it is potentially an option for them. But like I had a guy that did Kona last year, and he was asking me about low carb, high fat, and we did some periodization with that in training to get his fat oxidation pathways working really efficiently, which is good for the baseline training or off season. But then when he raced, like we put carbohydrate in the fuel tank because it means he can go faster. He was trying to win. He's not trying to just go out there and do a 16-hour Ironman. He's trying to do like a 9-10-hour Ironman and smash it. So it depends on your sport. It depends on how fast you want to go. Like if you want to race harder or faster or train harder and faster, then you're better off having carbohydrate in the tank to do that. I'm trying to think what other sports it could be useful for. They're really long and slow. So we did it with the race walkers, and the study that I was involved with, like they go long, right? They walk a marathon. Oh, Louise Burke, hello. But the guys that did the low carb, high fat, like fully blew up. That we did a 10K time trial at the start and the end, and the 10K guys like didn't even make through 10Ks. It was, very interesting. But because we took their carbohydrate away from them, they lost their top end speed, and so they lose the ability to burn carbohydrate as a fat more efficiently. So that was a big, long-winded answer to your question. I definitely encourage you to have a read of the blog, which I'll link, which does explain in more detail just what carbs are, what fats are, and how that would work. But if it's something that you want to know about for your sport, then I definitely encourage you to reach out to a sports dietitian because they can help guide you. Like it's a tool that I might use in an off-season, or to get somebody's fat adaptation pathways, fat burning pathways working more efficiently. And that can be good for Ironman athletes. But if you're a sprint distance or an Olympic distance racer, I probably wouldn't recommend low carb, high fat for you. It's quite difficult to maintain too. So to drop out carbohydrate, this is why people have success with weight loss in it. To drop out carbs, you drop out some major food groups, which is fine, as long as you replace them with other nutrients. But you drop out like all of your junk food, like soft drink, lollies, chocolate, eating out, hot chips, alcohol. There's a whole range of things that people drop out, which is why people have success with weight loss with this diet, because it's so restrictive. But you also need to then pump up fats. And some people with high cholesterol or heart issues, we need to just be careful of bumping up your fats and making sure we're putting healthy fats in rather than just like dousing everything in coconut oil and butter. It's probably not ideal. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to reach out to a sports dietitian if that's something you want to dabble with. I find there's a lot of noisy athletes out there. Apologies if you are one that has a lot of success with low carb, high fat, and that's their lifestyle and they love it and it's no problem whatsoever. And then other people see that and think, oh, I'm going to give that a go too. So I would definitely encourage you to actually seek professional support if you're going to play with it. I've seen a lot of people just try it on a whim just because they think it's going to be the next best thing and really suffer and kind of put themselves on the back foot. So definitely something that I wouldn't play with on your own. All right, if anyone else on this video has any questions, shoot them through now. About a couple of updates for you. I should have done this at the start. Let me have a drink of my coffee. It's getting cold. All right, a couple of updates. Sweat testing, we're running a session on the 22nd of February. So flick me an email or send me a message if you want to join. There's a couple of spots left, but this is likely to be the last session that we run for this season. So if it's something that you're interested in or you want to do, definitely get in touch. So 22nd of February, we're going to do it in the afternoon, so it's nice and hot. So anyone racing this year that wants to know what their sweat rate is, what their sweat concentration is, and we can work out a specific hydration plan for you, then get involved. And the other exciting thing is dietitian approved water bottles are finally on the website. So they're $15. They're the coolest things ever. They're 800 mils, which is like about a standard bidon. A standard bidon is usually 750, so they're a little bit more. And what's really cool about them is they've got this little strip. I'll show you guys, and then I'll show you guys. They've got a clear strip down the side so you can see how much is in there and what you've drunk. And they're also marked up in 100 ml increments. So if I've written you a race plan, then I might plan specifically how much to have, or it will help you to divide your bottles into quarters or halves or thirds or whatever you need. But really, really good for racing, this strip. It's a really cool little feature. And if you're not, then they're just cool for every day. BPA free, they come in this beautiful bright orange, a nice clear, so if you really want to see what's going on in your bottle, like a cool metallic pinky purple, and then it's cool black metallic color as well. So they're on the website now. I'll throw a link for these up as well. And then the more you get, the cheaper the postage is. So unfortunately, there's no cheap way to post these guys out. It's $8.50 standard Australian postage, but I can fit 2, maybe up to 3 into a package. So if you want a couple, then definitely grab a couple. All right, nobody's got any questions, so I'm going to sign out of this live and see if it actually works. Thank you so much for joining us, guys, and I look forward to seeing you on Coffee and Questions next week. See you later.